I got to talk about Carmelo Anthony. And Carmelo Anthony finally retired after all these years, and rightfully so. He's had an incredible career. I mean, he drafted by the Denver Nuggets. We have a lot of connections. Speaking of the Denver Nuggets, I mean, we're talking about a lot about our boys tonight, with rightfully so, right? I mean, there's a lot of news surrounding this franchise. And Melo, I remember the hype, man. We have a 10-time NBA All-Star, 6-time All-NBA selection, ninth most points all time, 75th anniversary member. Like, he, as much as Denver fans may have not liked how he left, I've never held that against him. He stayed here for his contract, and he decided he wanted to go elsewhere. I mean,
he did not stay here for his contract, Chris.
He stayed 7 years, right?
Yeah, but he left after he signed it. He stayed through his first and then signed a second and left. We traded him. It was trade. It was not. He was not a free agent.
Well, I mean, for the most part, though, Lala decided. You're right, Cuban.
Lala
wanted him. He wanted to go to.
And to be fair, he did too. And listen, if I was a professional athlete and I had ties to, a place like New York or my hometown,
yeah,
I'd always have dreams of like going and wanting to play there at some point. So I don't necessarily blame him. I think he could have handled his exit better than he did, but he was still young. I mean, he was 7 years in the league, but it was still, he was. What did that make him? Like 26, 27 at the time?
Yeah.
He was 1 year out of college at Syracuse when he was drafted by the Nuggets, number 3 overall. Before we thank Melo, I think we have to thank the Detroit Pistons.
Well, yeah, thank you. True. Yeah, I think we got to...
My man!
For drafting
Detroit.
Darko Milicic.
Where's Chairman?
Number 2 overall.
Chairman hasn't been here.
Chairman.
Thank you. Because of the Nuggets, but you remember, if the Nuggets had their choice between Melo and Darko,
they were taking Darko.
Yeah, 100% they were taking Darko.
But
and let's not forget the two guys taken right after Melo in that draft were Dwayne Wade and Chris, or actually it was Chris Bosh and then Dwayne Wade in that order.
Arguably, the best draft that probably, I mean, you could argue that was one of the best drafts of all time. And with that, so LeBron James, Carmelo, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, you get some players that played for a while. Kirk Heinrich, Chris Kaman by the Caveman. Let's see. I mean, there's a ton of players out of that draft. What's crazy about that draft?
Looking at the top 5, the top 5 is a juggernaut minus one dude.
I have a crazy story about that draft. Diacola knows. I was in. I want to tell one of my favorite Melo stories of all time. I was in New York visiting some family, and the NBA draft happened to be happening during our trip. We went to this trip. I was a kid in high school. I had no idea I was a sophomore in high school, so I didn't know that the draft was happening. I just knew that we were going to New York to visit some family. I'm literally in the morning at my grandparents' house, opening up the newspaper and seeing that tickets go on sale for the 2003 NBA draft in Madison Square Garden downtown, like the next day. So I go in and I'm like, what are the chances we can get tickets? Because I'm curious. This is a big draft. LeBron, Carmelo, Darko, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, all these players are going to be there. What are the chances we can get it? So we took the train in to New York City that year, and we waited in line around the block at Madison Square Garden all day, like you said, Diaco, in the chat, all day for tickets. We somehow got tickets, and I was able to go in and be in Madison Square Garden when LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony. I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. Like that was.
I don't even did I know that story?
I don't think you might not have known it, but it was. I literally have chills, like goosebumps right now talking about it. It was the coolest experience. I got a terrible towel, like not terrible towel because I don't want to represent the Steelers. I got a draft towel, and I got LeBron James pen. This is a crazy thing too. I was like, as LeBron James got drafted, I was going to the bathroom and I came back out, and it was the rope as the bathroom from where our seats were on the way roped off to the green room backstage. So LeBron James was signing some autographs with his pen. He dropped his pen, and I picked it up and I ran. I took it. I still have that pen somewhere in my house, but I bought a draft hat.
Somewhere, you better know where that pen is.
I got a draft hat for the new powder blue. That was the new powder blues were introduced that year. The same ones you're seeing on screen here. They were interesting.
No, at the time they were legit. I mean, it doesn't hold up now, but like the color scheme at that time, I was like, oh, these are dope. It's like UCLA colors, and I loved it. Or even Charger colors. Which, listen, I don't love the Chargers, but their uniform scheme's pretty cool.
It was great, and the fact that we came away with Carmelo Anthony, that I literally got back to Denver and I needed to buy a Carmelo jersey, and I did. It was such a cool experience. So that was like, and then to see Carmelo Anthony come full circle, and now we got the question: does he get his jersey retired as a Nugget? And like, I've seen the argument of people have said, retire the powder blue 15 as a Nugget, and then retire like another version of the jersey as Jokic. Which, can you do that? I think you might be able to get away with it. Maybe, I don't know. But
I don't know if it's a good look to have like different colored retirement in the arena itself. Like, I don't know if I love that look. I think they should all be uniformed and look proper, Chris.
But it's hard not to have him as a retired jersey that's not in the Raptors for Denver, knowing his career, knowing he started his career here, knowing the trajectory of how he played. I mean, by the way, I got to get to the chat real quick. There's some great stuff here.
Cubans, my pants are tight, and I wasn't even there when you were talking about being at the draft that year.
Spicy.
Everyone's saying it was so cool and awesome.
Yeah, like that. Yeah, it was a cool experience.
Nick said Melo should have gotten a ring. That's not his fault. The teams didn't believe in him, which I don't know what that means. They didn't believe in him. I mean, I think they believed in him, and Melo was a really, 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 really good player and great scorer.
He was arguably for the time where 3 points were like the Steph Curry era wasn't there with 3-point shooting. Like, if he was even like drafted in the like late 90s, 2000s, even like, let's say he just happened to stumble across he would probably be even more prolific as a scorer, more so than anything else. But like, I mean, either way,
he improved his 3-point shot a lot towards the end of his career.
100%.
But there was a point on the Nuggets where like you could argue he was the best offensive player as far as like straight up like throw him the ball and he'll get you a bucket in the NBA.
Yep.
Now, was he, a great distributor? Did he set up other guys? Was he a great defender? No, none of those things. So people dig at like Jokic for like not being a leader. Jokic is a better defender, I promise you, than Melo ever was. Melo, to me, as a Nuggets fan, I have a ton of love for Melo. Like, that was like, to me, he was the best player I'd ever seen on the Nuggets prior to this current version of the Nuggets, of course. But like, he carried the Nuggets for a long time. He was a ton of fun to watch. Like, I was so pumped for that draft. Obviously, like, I've talked about it on here before, but when we got Melo, I was hyped. What's funny is like, after Melo was drafted, I was in high school at the time here in Colorado, and we had like I think it was a mother-son breakfast for my high school at like a hotel or whatever. Yeah, I went to a private school. Shut your mouths. All right, not a big deal. And the keynote speaker for this was before he'd been drafted by the Nuggets, but he had not played a game for the Nuggets yet. And Melo was like the keynote. He was the keynote guest for this
no
thing
shit
when I was in high school. And I was so hyped. I'm like, oh my gosh, Melo, this is so awesome. And like, when you normally have a keynote speaker at these events, they just, spout off the speech or whatever. Melo was love him to death. But the dude was like, I don't know, he's 19, 20 years old at that time. Like he was barely older than me. And he was way in over his head. And he did not prepare a speech. Well, as far as like, it wasn't a speech. It was basically a Q&A, which was fine. And it was still awesome. But like, he was like, you could tell he was super nervous. He was like not used to like that many people, even at that time, even after his year at Syracuse. But that was cool to see him there. And I was hyped. And the Melo days I loved. We made a Western Conference Finals that could have been more. I think that's the best team Melo's ever played for when we lost to the Lakers and Kobe back in 2009, where there were 2 games decided by us not being able to inbound a pass late that we ended up losing, that we should have won and lose that series in 6. So that hurts because that team, they beat the Lakers, they're going to win the NBA title that year because the Lakers steamrolled in the NBA Finals. I forget who they played that year. But anyway, Melo didn't get a title, but had a phenomenal career, phenomenal scorer.
First ballot Hall of Famer.
Denver can't forget that. I know some Nuggets fans are bitter, but like, he's still gifting us today, Chris.
Yeah.
He's still gifting us today because without Melo and without the trade, we wouldn't have Jamal Murray.
True. Yep.
Jamal Murray we had a pick swap the year we took Murray with the Knicks. So it wasn't a straight up, they gave us their pick. It was we swapped first round picks if theirs was better than ours. So we swapped, moved up. They had to move back to our pick, and we draft Jamal Murray, who obviously is a stud today and averaged 32 points in the Western Conference Finals and is a monster of a player. So I don't know how you do the whole retirement because of the number thing being weird with Joker, but
because
Melo deserves to have his number in the rafters. What I would really like Melo to do though, Chris, because I think some of the reasons like Nuggets fans are still butthurt about it is like, I think he went to he was at a Knicks playoff game this year. He was like there, he's in attendance, he's supporting him. Like, dude, come back and like be at one of these finals games.
Peyton Manning comes back and supports the Nuggets, the Broncos, it feels good.
Just come back, be in the crowd at one of these Nuggets finals, and all these fans will be like, all's forgiven. Thank you. Like, you're here. Like, this is so awesome. So
yeah.
And the one interesting thing about his like retirement speech was like, he basically was like, oh, my legacy is now with my son, which is wild to think about, Chris, that we're this old, where his son, who's in the class of 2025, so he's not that far off. He's a year or 2 years away from graduating high school.
Wild.
His son. And I had to look it up because I'm like, I don't know. And according to at least one, like 247 Sports, his son is like the number 62 ranked player in his class. So
it's no Bronny James. But
Bronny James should probably be somewhere back there, and he just keeps getting lifted because of LeBron. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see what these guys and their next generation, because you don't see a ton of like father-son duo. Like I'm trying to think right now in the NBA, like Gary Payton Jr., Gary Payton Sr., of course, both played in the NBA, but you don't see
the Currys. Kind of.
Jordan's son was hyped, and then that didn't really come to fruition at all in the NBA, and he was not even that good of a college player.
Del Curry, Steph Curry, I don't know.
Yeah, Del and Steph is true, but Del was kind of like not a.
He wasn't solid, but he wasn't fine.
Right.
Chat. Yeah. Chairman showed up. Chairman, do you remember Darko Milicic by chance? Welcome in.
He must have joined because he heard us. Chairman, right before you got on, I thanked the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
I thanked your NBA squad.
And someone was like, Chairman doesn't talk basketball after the whole missing out on Victor Wembanyama. Imagine Carmelo Anthony with Billups, Rip Hamilton, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, Tajon Prince. So the Pistons. The Pistons missed out that one. Most likely would have had more rings. Best players Melo had was the Nuggets days with J.R. Smith, Billups, Kenyon Martin, says Nicholas. Yeah, I mean they did make a Western Conference Finals. They just couldn't get over the hump there. Good night, Ducky. Hope you have a great night. Bow down to Masai Ujiri. Bye bye. It's SDG. Have Melo officially give 15 to Jokic.
Masai was not the GM when we drafted Melo, though. But he was the GM maybe when we made the trade.
Yeah,
the Melo trade?
maybe.
Was he the GM then?
He might have been. I'm having trouble remembering. All right, so there you go. Congratulations on Carmelo. I'm curious to see how they handle the retirement. Nick says have Melo officially give Jokic the 15. I don't know. I don't know if I can. That's a weird thing. I mean, because you gotta
wants to actually do
like
that
if
either.
I was Melo, I wouldn't want to hand it like over my 15 after a legendary career. Like that's a weird.
How random is it that like our two like legendary players in the last 30 years wore the same number?
It's and arguably, guy, like
this is Joker's fault.
Let's be real.
Joker, what are you doing?
Joker, you're terrible. What are you doing? And let's be real. Joker's gonna have probably a better career when it's all said and done.
Already has, Chris. He's got two MVPs.
By the way,
Joker's already had Joker could retire tomorrow, and he may not have the total numbers of Melo, but like peak Joker, way better than peak Melo. No disrespect, Melo. Love you.
I mean, it's going to be a weird situation. I feel like we have to have some representation of Melo. I don't know how we do it. Get creative, Denver. Figure it out. But we have to have something.
I want game one. If we're playing Miami, I want game one of the finals. I want Melo there. I want Chauncey there. I want J.R. Smith there. Like Kenyon Martin there. The
vets.
If AI wants to come.
AI,
come
get
on
AI
in. Marcus Camby. Like Dikembe. Like.
Yeah, let's do it.
Come on. Antonio McDyess, Rodney White, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Robert Pack, Brian Stiff,
Nick,
Reggie Williams. Everyone's like, who are these people?
Nick, I give up. Jokic is him. Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. He is him. Unless you're, unless we're somehow it's Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray, baby. So congratulations to Carmelo Anthony, legend of the game, and Denver Nugget to start. And I mean, in my heart, it's great that he was here for Denver, knowing his career started here. So there you go.